Hi, this is Tom Brady back again with lesson 5. We're cruising right through this. This lesson is very important, finding the right agent. All right, the PDF should give you enough to make a checklist. I'm not going to go over every single item here. We're just going to go over some highlights or lowlights. If you don't get this right, it can really make your home search miserable. You need an agent that you get along with, that there's chemistry with, that has the same schedule. When you like to look on weekends, you need them available weekends, nights, whenever you like to look. All right. You want to be careful about using family members. I went on a listing presentation. The lady decided to list with her niece who had a real estate license, did it part-time. The niece didn't get the school district right, so she sold the house for a lot less than it would have if she got the school district right. So be careful about using relatives or a part-time agent. You want a full-time agent. Agents should be a strategist, your negotiator, your market translator, your stress counselor. They have a lot of roles to play. So you want somebody that you get along with and kind of works well with you. All right. The wrong agent is costly and aggravating. How your agent gets paid. So this changed in the last year. It used to be that the seller put the percentage on the MLS that they were offering out to buyers agents. NAR, in their infinite wisdom, the National Association of Realtors, went to court. Now they said, no, we're not going to put that anymore because it's less transparent. And somehow they say that's more transparent. So there's the danger with this. Now that the agent doesn't know if the seller's paying out, they're going to have you sign a buyer contract. All right, we'll go into forms more in the next one. But do not sign an exclusive buyer representation contract until you're very comfortable and you know the agent very well. There's such a thing as a non-exclusive contract that you can use until you get to know them. Or if you do the exclusive, only do it for a short period of time, a week or so, do it a week at a time even. Because if you lock yourself into that, it's going to be a problem. Also, in that buyer's agreement that most agents are going to have you sign, it's going to say what percentage they get paid. Now, if the seller doesn't pay them and they put 3% in there, you're on the hook at closing for 3%. All right, so you really have to be careful before you sign these agreements. These are, like, to me, horrible. But you have to realize that you can be on the hook for that. Now, the agent's probably going to tell you, don't worry, every seller pays out. I've never had to charge a buyer. That's changing now. Most sellers still pay out, probably 95%. But there is that other 5% that is starting to say, listen, the buyer's agent can get paid by the buyer. So you got to be really careful or your closing costs are going to go up 2-3%. All right, we covered that. Speaking to past clients of agents, I think is a waste. Obviously, they're going to give you the people that they want you to speak to. So you'll see people say, oh, call up their former clients, and they're going to give you a list that they want you to call. So to me, that's just stupid. You want a standardized checklist of what you're going to ask each agent that you interview so that you can have the same questions for each agent, and then you can gauge the answers. You don't need a hyper-local agent, right? You don't need, if you're buying in center reach, you don't need a center reach agent. I cover like Western Suffolk, Central Suffolk, and I'm pretty comfortable anywhere there. If you go to Hamptons, I'm not comfortable. Nassau, parts I am, parts I'm not. But generally, each agent has a coverage area that they specialize in. So if you're in Merrick, you can get an agent that specializes around that area. It doesn't have to be just Merrick. It can be Lynbrook, Merrick, Belmore. All right, so don't worry about the hyper-local thing. That's kind of old school before the internet and that. All right, how you got paid, we went over. Local buyers. Okay, 8 types of agency. So there's buyer's agents that you sign a contract with. You could be on the hook. We discussed that, all right? When you first meet an agent, they're supposed to give you an agency disclosure agreement telling you what type of agent they are. There's a buyer's agent who's supposed to protect you, try and get you the lowest price and the best terms, all right? Then there's a dual agent. Okay, dual agent, people get a little confused. A dual agent is supposed to split themselves in half and represent the seller and the buyer's best interest, which is a little hard to do, but allegedly that's what they're supposed to do. People get mistaken when they go to an open house and start speaking to the listing agent that they have dual agency. So they'll tell the listing agent, all right, this house is 400. We would pay 500 because we love it. That listing agent is going to go back to the seller and tell them exactly what you said because he's not a dual agent. He's a seller's agent dealing with a buyer. In order to become a dual agent, you have to request representation, and then he has to give you the form saying that It's dual agency, right? Without that, he's the seller's agent. He works for the seller to get the seller the highest price and the best terms, and all he owes you is honest dealings, all right? There's also a broker's agent. They're kind of an intermediary third party. They just facilitate the transaction. They just owe honest dealings to you. All right. And then there's the seller listing agent. Again, I want to emphasize they work for the seller. If you go to an open house, whatever you tell him, he's supposed to tell the seller if it's to their advantage. All right. So you got to be careful about that. All right. Create your checklist. Chemistry to me is one of the biggest things. If you don't have that with an agent, you're not going to gel, and it's going to be kind of a long process. All right, so that's it for finding an agent, a little longer than the other one. The PDF has more information. Very important that you don't sign a long-term exclusive buyer representation agreement with anybody. All right, just either sign short-term ones or sign non-exclusive ones. And make sure you know what the percentage says. If they put 5%, you could be on the hook for 5%. All right. So you have to ask these questions. You got to make sure you understand what you're signing. The next class lesson is on forms. We'll go over it more. But please do not sign a long-term exclusive agreement, especially with an agent you don't really know that you got from Zillow. All right. Don't do it. Thank you, and I will see you in lesson 5, forms.